New mathematical tools in chaos theory and increased computing power have enabled calculations that were previously impossible. Science can now study living organisms using deterministic mathematical equations. Of course, you believe you have free will, but will these studies prove we have no free will? They say the past is set in stone, and we know the present is the outcome of our unchangeable history. If we can model living organisms with deterministic mathematical equations, the future becomes as unchangeable as the past. Changing a single variable in this equation would alter the entire outcome, completely transforming the future. But try to see yourself as a variable within such an equation. You, a complex individual within an even more complex stream of cultural evolution, with your behavior and experiences conditioned by the time and place you occupy. Your next moment, predictable by some intricate mathematical equation. If reality is a mathematical equation, then the present is the outcome of unchangeable variables from the past, making the future just as fixed. Just because we can't predict the future does not mean it isn't determined. Georg Cantor, Ludwig Boltzmann, Kurt Gödel, and Alan Turing were all mathematicians that studied sets, in particular infinite sets. They would tell you that there are limitations to set theory as a tool for describing natural processes. An important fundamental limitation is that we can never know how the processes actually work. We can only offer reasonable explanations that do not contradict what we see when we look closely. Another mathematician, Edward Lorenz, would tell us that the present determines the future, but that the approximate present does not approximately determine the future. Lorenz gave us the butterfly effect, the idea that small changes in initial conditions can cause vast changes over time. Chaotic behavior is everywhere. It exists in many natural systems, including fluid flow, heartbeat irregularities, weather, and the three-body problem. Chaos is not that things are unpredictable, it is that we, or rather our mathematics and logic, cannot predict them. Calculations to determine what will happen next in any complex system are expressed with differential equations. These are equations where the variables in the equation are changing, for instance, equations for predicting the weather. Large complex equations appear chaotic to us. Because our math is incomplete, we just cannot come up with the correct math to get accurate calculations. This is why we can't predict the weather for more than a few days, and we may be able to predict that you will wake up tomorrow, but not for certainty. Probability is all we have. Although the systems behind reality are deterministic, we just can't do calculations that produce anything other than probable predictions over short time scales. This is to say that what will be, but we cannot predict what will be because math is broken. Our math and logic especially fail when we try to understand infinities, and since everything we try to measure closely tends to have an infinite nature, you must accept that all that is left for us when we try to understand reality is faith, or probability. When we don't understand, we just make something up, which makes us irrational. We are not rational thinkers. Sexuality underlies our motives. Our actions stem from subconscious drives and the emotions that form our psychological makeup. To be rational would first require an ability to see the deterministic nature of existence and recognize the absurdity of much of what we do each day. To be rational would stand us apart from our reality, and without the impulse of sexual desire, we would see reality and behave very differently. Therefore, don't make crazy stuff up, and be as reasonable as possible. It's bad enough that we cannot see reality for what it really is. We must accept that we have vast limitations. I like to use the example, you can't teach a dog to do algebra, and we hairless apes have limitations too.